Hi, Janae. How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Not bad, thanks.
Let me turn my volume up a little bit. It's kind of hard to hear.
Hello, Bill. Is that you? Bill Johnson?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
The 518 number. Yep.
Thank you.
Janae, you do have your quorum, yourself, Bill on the phone, Betty and Steve.
Oh, okay, great. So I can call the meeting to order?
Yes,
Okay. And Annette, can you do the roll call?
sure. That too. So Janae McDonald,
Present?
Mary Kate Murin, Steve Grande,
Here.
Bill Johnson,
Here.
Betty Esposito. It's muted.
Here.
Thank you. And Alexander Anderson. Thank you. So we have 4 out of 5. We have quorum. Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, by way of context, as we dive in here, just a little bit of perspective. Obviously, internal external doesn't meet as frequently as Ways and Means, and we don't have the most definitive description of it in the trustee bylaws. But really wanted to start to work in divisional perspective. So that's why we see 3 updates in this case from HR, from student affairs, and from external affairs. And then there's a few items that I'll contribute there. But I think this will really help us sort of focus on more of the operational aspects of the college as opposed to just the fiscal or the budgetary. So that's really part of the rationale. I'm certainly happy to brainstorm and think about other presenters or other perspectives we can have going forward, including, for example, some of the academic affairs work as well.
Thank you for providing that context. And so with that being said, we're going to start with the key updates from Human Resources.
Great, thank you. Nanette, I'm not sure if you're able to pull up the draft website.
Yes.
Thank you.
John has it. Yes. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. This is just a draft, but this is an idea of the role that HR can play, especially now in light of COVID, the additional pressures and concerns and difficulties that are brought to bear on people who are working remotely, teaching online, and really not being connected in the kind of community that we used to be. And we feel that HR has a particular role to play in building up a culture of wellness and health. So this is draft, and I say that to you because I feel it's really important that I speak with the constituents throughout the campus. For example, the All-Unit Congress. I hope to be speaking with their staff committee on Wednesday. I've met with the co-chair of the AUC this afternoon, and he's going to invite me to that committee. If not that one, then one in December. I hope to speak to our employee resource groups. We have several, HAHE, our Hispanic serving in institutions of higher education, our Black professionals group, and LGBTQ. The whole idea is consistent with this draft mission. Again, it is a draft, which is to cultivate a campus culture of health and wellness by supporting all Springfield Technical Community College employees through education, resources, connections, and self-care strategies that support multiple dimensions of health and well-being. And we have shamelessly borrowed from Princeton University's wellness and assessment approach to health. And I'm delighted to say that we've made it our own because our dimensions of health are a little different. We've included emotional, financial, physical, occupational, social, and instead of spiritual, because I thought there might be place for equity, I've inserted health and equity, which is recognized by the Centers for Disease Control as a really valid concern. And we've seen evidence of that due to the disparate impact that COVID has had on communities of color, on communities of lower social economic background. So we want to be cognizant of that, especially as we go into examining equity across the campus. So our goals are to collaborate with faculty and staff on health and wellness initiatives, to support employee affinity groups, and that's a larger group than just the employee resource groups. Promote healthy lifestyle through behaviors, healthy lifestyle behaviors through workshop activities and professional development. Foster the adoption of best practices through programs and resources, and create a community and peer group of health and wellness advocates. And as you scroll down, I don't know if you could do that, Nanette. If you scroll down, you can see we broke it down according to the wheel, emotional, financial, and what we have here are placeholders, really. We have some good articles here that we'll probably make sure stay. But what I want to do when I'm meeting with the groups is to say, let's take a look at this and see what it is that you feel we need to do for you in order to make sure that these different dimensions of your health are being met. And really, that's the whole purpose. And, you know, we feel especially that in light of COVID and the burdens and the pressures that people are under, that this is a timely thing to do. These are our priorities for 2021. And I'll read them to you because I think they're significant. We're going to convene a network of well-being champions among employees to promote health and wellness across STIC departments. One of the group of healthy champions I'd like to convene is there's a Stop Smoking campaign, a group of employees looking at creating a smoke-free campus. But it's bigger than that. It has to do with supporting those who happen to be smokers and making sure that they feel that they have a place and can input what kinds of steps we take. So convene a network of well-being champions among employees to promote health and wellness across STIC departments, support employee resource groups that I've referred to, HAHE, Black Professionals Group, and LGBTQ, promote healthy lifestyle behaviors through online resources and workshops, gather input from faculty and staff on a smoke-free campus policy, which we hope to roll out in the summer, and offer smoking cessation clinics and resources for employees who would like to stop smoking. We want to partner with our benefits provider on initiatives that encourage employees to be more active, promote local partnerships that support healthy lifestyles, including health clubs, walking groups, alcohol awareness, and healthy eating, create online resilience and stress toolkits to help employees be change ready and prepared to cope with life's transitions, which we've all been doing, prevent harassment and bullying through workshops and trainings for all departments across STIC, and encourage a series of lunch and learn programs on nutrition, exercise, mindfulness, and staying connected. So this may end up being the priorities, or they could change depending on the feedback and the input we get. But I feel it's very important that we get a temperature check, pun intended, that we find out how people are feeling out there and see what our office can do to make it better. You know, I'm very much interested in building a real positive culture on campus. I think this is one way to do that. So are there any questions?
I have one. Given, you know, the current situation we're in with the pandemic, have you had anyone reach out to, you know, your office, you know, seeking additional services or just wanting to inquire what their employer had to offer?
Yes,
Okay,
we have.
that's good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions? Oh,
One quick one.
Sure.
Casey, who is your committee or the group you're working with?
Well, there's several. I'm hoping to tap into the group that was charged with developing the smoke-free campus policy. So there's about 12 or 13 people on that group. I'm going to be meeting with the all-unit Congress because I think it's really, really important that they have input and hopefully, you know, support what we're doing and come up with some ideas. I don't want to be the creator of all ideas. I think you know, it's much better to have more people involved. Other employees, you know, as I said, the different groups. Unfortunately, this says support employee resource groups, HAHE, BPG, and Pride. It's not Pride. Pride is actually the student support group. We're going to have that read LBGTQ. So I'm hoping to give voice to those different organizations so that we can all own this. I don't have any one group, but I'm seeking input from anyone, including this group. I mean, I would love for the Board of Trustees to weigh in, you know, if there are things that you think we should be offering that we're not, or, you know, your own experiences in your own work environments. In fact, cabinet today, we were talking about getting Fitbits and, you know, having a challenge. So, I mean, we can make this fun too. We can make it, you know, lighthearted because there's precious little of that in some, some days. It's tough. And we're trying to lighten it a little and be, useful.
Great.
So your input is welcome. Anyone else?
I will just say, not to lead too much into what I know is going to be the next presentation with Darcy, but I think I'll be interested to see how some of the equity work that Darcy is getting ready to present on, the impact that will have, and how some of that will lay over for the Human Resources Department, for the employees, not just, students. But thank you.
You're absolutely right. If I could just speak to that point, because it's spot on. I am so eager about the initiative that Darcy is heading up, because equity is front and center. And that's why I changed that dimension from Princeton. It could have been spirituality, but I really felt, let's focus on equity. This is a commitment the college has made. And I'm looking at our hiring process, wherever we can get expertise from the consultant that has been, hired to come on campus. I'm looking for it. So it's a perfect segue.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next, Darcy Kemp with Student Affairs.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. I do have a couple slides and a PowerPoint presentation. So will Nanette or John be able to pull those up?
Yes, John is getting ready.
Thank you. Great. If we could advance to the next slide, please. So in August, Dr. Cook announced the formation of the Anti-Racism and Inclusion Alliance, or AIA, at STCC, and he put a call out for participation. Our charge that STCC must continue to move forward actions that address our own equity gaps and measure our success at addressing systemic racism. And I want to acknowledge the leadership of the Alliance, my co-facilitators, my quad facilitators, Dean Greco, Dr. Vanessa Hill, and Trustee McDonald as well. So we are looking forward to the continuation of this great work together. And our work will include facilitating an agenda building, and I'll speak to that as well. Can we advance to the next slide, please? So this slide does go over the responsibilities and representation of our alliance. It includes a broadly representative group of nearly 30 faculty, staff, administrators, and students who will work to promote an integrated and systemic approach across the college specific to diversity, inclusion, and equity, with the stated outcome of ensuring that STIC serves as an anti-racist institution. Next slide, please. We've received 3 proposals in response to our request for quote for an equity and anti-racism consultant. The facilitators reviewed, met, and discussed, and then selected the equity and anti-racism project team led by Pamela Felder-Small. The AIA hosted its inaugural meeting as a large group on October 22nd, and the facilitators had our first meeting with the consultant on October 29th. The AIA intends to meet as a full group on a monthly basis, and the consultant hopes to engage members of the Alliance in one-on-one meetings as we begin our work together. On those off weeks that we're not meeting as a large group, the facilitators will be meeting on a weekly basis with the consultant. Next slide, please. This is the last piece of highlight that I'd like to share, which are the resources that we have for the AIA at STIC. The website is our external facing information where we hope to include updates to the public so we can share the work as it persists. And our portal page is actually an internal portal where members of the Alliance can look at meetings, watch past, look at past agendas, look at meeting notes, share articles, read information regarding the Equity and Anti-Racism Project team, and really just serve as a space where we can share information and collaborate together. In addition to the work of the Alliance, we're excited for Dr. Felder's team. She will serve as the primary research consultant and primary contact, and joining her is Sydney Friedman, PhD, who will serve as a research consultant, and Tia Brown McNair, PhD, who will serve as an advisor. The team brings significant theoretical and practical knowledge focused on community colleges, equity, and anti-racism in higher education. Are there any questions about the AIA update at STCC?
This is Bill Johnson. We got to hire a consultant to tell us how not to be racist. I thought it was as simple as you treat everybody the same. Or maybe I'm just too simple-minded to understand the need for a consultant to pay money for somebody to come in and say, you need to treat everybody the same. Am I missing something, or?
We've grounded our work a bit in Dr. Kennedy's work, and if I might read a quote, he elaborates by offering that racist is one who is supporting a racist policy through their actions or inaction or expressing a racist idea. Anti-racist is one who is supporting an anti-racist policy through their actions or expressing an anti-racist idea. He elaborates further by offering an anti-racist policy is any measure that produces or sustains racial equity between racial groups. And by policy, he means written and unwritten laws, rules, procedures, processes, regulations, and guidelines that govern people. So there's no such thing as a non-racist or race-neutral policy. Every policy in every institution in every community in every nation is producing or sustaining either racial inequity or inequity or equity between racial groups. So I share that to lead into some of the initial conversations that the group has had and which will guide our work, which is we want to take a look at our practices, policies, and procedures to ensure that they are in fact anti-racist.
So what you're saying is, what you're saying is you need to treat people different, not to be racist. So treating everybody the same is wrong. I'm just totally confused.
Sure, if I could give a specific example. The AccuPlacer is a system that students would utilize for placement. And the national research shows that students who take the AccuPlacer, students of color, are disproportionately placed in developmental classes in comparison to their white counterparts. So we want to address that system that is disproportionately placing our students of color into developmental courses. And I'm happy to say that a team of student affairs and academic affairs in partnership with each other, in part in response to our challenges faced by COVID, have really moved away from the AccuPlacer and have embraced a system that really takes a faculty-led approach to placing students in the coursework for fall semester. So we'll continue to adopt a practice that we believe focuses on the fact that the AccuPlacer did disproportionately place students of color into developmental classes. Our hope would be that we would see the reverse of that we would see through the change in our practice that students of color were not disproportionately placed in developmental courses.
So are we changing the test for everybody, or are you giving a separate test to some people?
The test has been the placement exam has been changed for everyone who
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you're not creating a separate test. You're trying to find inequities in the test and alter the test to treat everybody the same.
So that, yes, that's an example of one way in which we could look at a practice and make change in the name of equity.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to say, it's been a pleasure so far. It's still early in a working relationship, but I've really enjoyed working with you, Darcy, Rick, and Vanessa so far. And I'm really excited to do some of this work. And a lot of the employees of STCC are really excited to do this work. So I can't wait to see where this leads us, what the study actually finds, and how we can continue to make sure that we're providing all students and employees with as much equity as possible. So thank you. And with that, we're going to move forward to our updates from the Office of Advancement and External Affairs. Denise?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Internal External Committee. Thank you. John, could you bring up my PowerPoint presentation, please? We can move to the next slide. Thank you so much. So I have the pleasure of talking with you all this evening about the happenings in my division. And I do know that on the agenda, it highlights campaigns, but I'll just give you a very quick overview of some of the other important initiatives that are happening in the Division of Advancement and External Affairs. So the first slide calls your attention to a merger, or I should call a collaborative relationship between Building 20, the Springfield Technical Community College Technical Park, which is right across the street, as many of you are aware, as well as continued advocacy. So we know that in Building 20, our Health Sciences Department is housed in that building, along with some other really critical and important programs. And we also know that the health of Building 20 is not where we would like it to be. And because of that, we have been doing our diligence to identify another site where we could house Building 20 and ensure a healthy facility for our students and a thriving workforce for our region. So through that, we have continued to have ongoing conversations with our local legislators who really have been instrumental, and in particular, Leader Wagner, Joe Wagner, out of Chicopee, and making sure that our bill was able to get through the House of Representatives and is currently sitting in conference committee. And so we worked with not only Leader Wagner, but with other legislators, along with the leadership over at the Tech Park, to get that bill through. And we're really excited that it has even made it that far, and will be even more ecstatic and overjoyed if it's able to get through the committee. So I continue to have consistent contact with our legislators, in particular the office of Senator Eric Lesser, who is the chairman of that particular joint committee, along with other legislators, both in the House and the Senate, in addition with the leadership of the National Park Service. And we've even had quite a few conversations with our Congressman's office, Congressman Richie Neal. So we continue to advocate and stress with our local delegation, as well as with other community partners, Bay State Mercy, how important it is going to be to try and get Building 20 next door to the Tech Park. We have a legislative Zoom session, and it'll have to happen by Zoom because of COVID, scheduled for sometime in November. We were hoping for sometime next week, but our legislators are busy working around the clock, and we really won't know what happens with that bill until probably sometime in late December, early January. Word is currently that our current legislators will be working until January 5th, and then the new body will get sworn in on the 6th. There's a lot of speculation about what might happen after tomorrow's elections, and so we'll wait to see how that all works out. And we'll hope that, you know, that the Commonwealth will be able to see some funding, and then in turn, we ourselves will be able to see it trickle down locally to help with moving Building 20 forward. And then I just want to add that in addition to all of those conversations, we continue to have conversations with DCAM as well. So more to come, because I will be presenting with Paul Stelzer and the new incoming chair, Russ Denver from the Tech Park, at our November 23rd Board of Trustee meeting. Next slide. So many of you have seen this slide, and I think it's just important to always bring it back up just as a refresher so we can see what's happening on this foundation side of the house, where we were back in 2015 and where we are currently. And these figures are as of 10/26, so just last week. You'll notice that FY21, we finished a bit under, and that is pretty much attributed to having the abrupt stop in March because of COVID. However, we continue to reach out and maintain relationships with our donors, cultivate new donors, and really nurture our existing donors. We are in the process of wrapping up, or having wrapped up, our capital campaign, which is its first in the last 10 years, and are really going to focus on our annual donors and our annual appeals to ensure that we continue to live up to the mission of being able to provide scholarships to our students. Next slide, please. So as I just mentioned, this is going to be our first capital campaign that we have concluded in over 10 years. And here are a few highlights. We finished up, or we continue to raise a little bit over $2.1 million, which is really fantastic considering the current landscape. We had 3 bequests that came in with a combined total of over $1 million. We had a total of 386 donors, and many of those donors continue to give consistently to the foundation. And 48 major donors who gave above and beyond $500. This past spring and end of the summer, we were fortunate to receive $75,000 in support from the Community Foundation of Western Mass. Most recently, TD Bank North gave us $10,000 to help buy hotspots, which was really critical considering the digital divide. We know that that is a real thing, that is a real phenomenon for our students, that they don't all have, or did not all have, the capacity to move to a virtual setting when COVID hit. And then we have had an amazing relationship with Stop and Shop, one of our best corporate sponsors to date while I have been at the foundation. They have been extremely generous, helping to support our RAM cupboard with providing grocery bags and food gift cards to ensure that our students don't have to worry about going hungry, don't have to worry about feeding their families. It gives them one less thing to have to worry about while they're trying to complete their education. And so in addition to their donation to our cupboard, most recently on the Day of the Girl, which was on October 10th, they decided to award STCC several pallets of feminine hygiene products. That happens to actually be quite a concern, or quite an insecurity for young women and women who tend not to have access to those products. And so we were fortunate to be recipients of that gift. And then lastly, we've just done, there have been donors who have given generously throughout the many years that STCC has been in existence. But we are really proud of the new donors that have come on board, such as People's Bank, Berkshire Bank, and Universal Plastics, to name a few of the newer donors. And then Collins Pipe and our alum Bill Fenton in the Eastern States Exposition have been longtime supporters of the college. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, our communications and marketing department has really done yeoman's work over the last year. You'll notice some key metrics that I want to point out, and those are just from May 1st to October 23rd. So a short period of time. Jim Dinko, who happens to do a lot of our public relations, has spun out 66 news releases. We have about 170 marketing projects that we've completed, 38 new web pages, and both VP Darcy Kemp and AVP Casey have talked about some of those web pages for AIA and Stick Cares. We also have new YouTube videos, 91 of them. And so this is where I'm going to make the plug of you trustees that are here, with the hopes that you'll go out and share this with your other colleagues on the board, is that we all would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and even to our social media, right? So we're on Twitter, and we'd love for you to be able to get on there and share, because that's how you build followers. And that's what we want. I'm going to go right down to the returning stop outs, because I want to end with the accolades. But year over year growth, and it's at 28%, and that might not seem like a lot, but it really is. And with some collaborative work between the communications and marketing department and academic affairs, for fall of 2020, we were able to recruit back 83 former students to resume their degrees and/or certificate programs. And those stop outs, for those who may or may not know, are those who were enrolled or who had started and then stopped for whatever reason. And so Keith was able to pull that data and then do some targeted marketing. And of the people he sent it back to, 83 re-enrolled. And we saw that net 60 individuals for fall of 2019. As well. So we had 83 this past fall, or this current fall, and then 60 last fall 2019. So since Keith has come on to the communications and marketing department, he and his team have done a really fantastic job and have really tried to ensure that not only does STCC have a presence here in the Valley and the greater Springfield area, but throughout the Commonwealth. And so STCC, and this slide was sent over to Nanette before we had gotten word that we had actually won. We were just finalists at the time, but we were able to win 4 awards. And so we did get a silver, or we medaled, I should say, and got a silver. And I want to make sure I get them correctly. From the National Council on Marketing and Public Relations, we got a silver for our STIC brochure, which highlighted STIC facts, as well as how to apply for financial aid. And then we received 3 bronze awards, one for our spring 2020 newsletter, one for the fundraising pennant that we use on the foundation side, and then for our radio segment on 90.7 Stick Around. So we're truly excited about that, you know, all across the world, actually, Stick is getting recognized. And then, of course, Mass Live, we won 2020 and 2021, which was really fantastic when we won last year, because it was the first time that we had ever won. And it was the first time that we knocked out a flagship institution in the area who had garnered that award since the inception of the Reader Rape Awards. And then most recently, we won the Valley Advocate Best of 2020. So it gives me great pleasure to say that I am thrilled with the work that this department as well as the foundation is doing to ensure that STCC continues to be accessible and affordable for all those in the region. And that would conclude my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I know I have a question, but does anyone else have any questions before I ask my question?
I'll make a comment. I'd like to, I would be clapping my hands in person, Denise, but just to say what a great job. It's a tough market out there with all of, oh, thanks for the hand clapping. With all of what's going on out there and how you have to really rethink how your approaches, I'm sure, in many ways, but great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't realize, that there were specific targeted efforts to stop out students to return. So I think that's really cool and that's really awesome. One of the questions I have, and this is more of an education piece for me, can you just educate me on how exactly the fundraising or the cycle of fundraising works for the foundation? Is it just on a rolling basis, or is there a start and stop time that you do it based on, what fiscal year or calendar year that you're in, just so I can help conceptualize our most recent number for 2021.
Sure. So we're always asking and taking and receiving money. There's never a time frame at all. However, we do run on a fiscal year budget. So the numbers that you have seen before you on the previous slide are set out per fiscal year. Does that make sense? So yeah. You do July 1st to June 30th of every year. But our efforts with respect to receiving donations or asking happen daily, year round, all the time.
Okay.
You'd like to give.
So there's still, for the 2021, we still have some recovery time to boost that foundation number up so that we can provide more scholarships.
Yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. So my apologies, Madam Chair. So and John, if it's not too much to go back, I should have said that we were hoping, nope, the one with the foundation giving history, we had to stop abruptly for FY 2020. My apologies, I misspoke. FY 2021 is still in progress. So my apologies for FY 2020.
Go ahead.
Our hope was that we were going to surpass that dollar figure. I mean, you see, we did pretty well with respect to donors and gifts. In particular, I think it was I know that it was because of our LEAP campaign. We did significantly well for that particular campaign. And we were hoping that with the bring back of the raffle, which used to be a signature event for the institution, that we were going to be able to sort of make up for that for capital, or we were going to be able to increase our capital. And then when the pandemic hit, that was no longer able to occur.
Okay. Any other questions and comments? Okay. As we're ready for our president's perspective.
Thank you. And to our trustees, I'll just echo how proud we can all be of these very talented administrators, to Casey Senni, to Darcy Kemp, to Denise Hurst, doing wonderful work, obviously under very complex conditions in our operations right now. So I'm glad that we could sort of look within some of these other divisions that we don't often have a chance to share more about. And again, to the chair and to the committee, if this is productive and informative, we'll keep this practice. We'll certainly sort of work our way into some of the other divisions so you can really start to see our operations. 3 points from me. You will have been provided in advance with the personnel update. So that's provided more or less on a quarterly basis. It sometimes, but not always, times well with when we have internal, external committee meetings. A few notes to share. You'll see basically we show activity for our full-time employees and part-time employees. Under full-time, you'll see even as difficult as things are, we do still need to hire full-time employees. You'll see in particular, there were 6 full-time faculty that we brought on board at the start of the year, including 1 instructional designer, which gives us a total of 3, which is quite a significant investment for our online and digital learning efforts these days. You'll see 1 promotion, Jason Cohen from Administration and Finance promoted to a senior director. That was very much well-earned and deserved. Also, you'll see 9 retirements. I believe 5 of them came via our incentive retirement that we helped put on the table as part of our cost-saving measures amidst all the other cost savings that we have attempted. There will also, you'll see separation. So you'll see the retrenchment positions. I believe we show 16 either retrenchments or that term was applied to some of the others that were more like a furlough. Because for all of those facilities positions, we have, I think as of this week, effectively recalled all of the maintainer or facilities positions that we did furlough. Obviously, our campus activities, particularly for our maintainers around cleaning of our buildings, has ramped right back up again. So therefore, we've had to bring those, we've needed to bring those positions back. So that really is a synopsis of the personnel report. Otherwise, I think it's been a rather quiet year, particularly in the sense that you can imagine a lot of employees are not necessarily looking to go anywhere given how uncertain things are out there. And also we are also, as we know, a strong employer who offers really helpful benefits that come through that the sort of state package, if you will. On the NETCHI side, and I'm happy to take questions as we go through, a great conversation around the self-study and accreditation. I believe that we have moved forward the survey for trustees to provide feedback on, and hopefully again, you found it informative for our co-chairs of that self-study to present to trustees at the last board meeting. My small little prompt is around the April visit. Again, we know that Monday, April 12th, Tuesday the 13th, Wednesday the 14th. If trustees don't mind penciling that onto your calendars, the visiting team, and again, the way NETCHI does this is they appoint a president from in this case, a community college from New England who chairs the visiting team. They have 5, 6, 7 people who are also join that team. They sort of come, in this case, we expect them to come virtually. And really they take your self-study and then they conduct interviews. They look at our data, they look at materials, and they also meet with people. And I know that they're always thrilled when they can meet with trustees and hear more about the college from your vantage point. So I think that would be a great service for trustees to be able to contribute and participate in that process. My last point, not on there, but to just conclude with a mention about COVID. As we saw today, we are clearly not anywhere short of talking about this and considering this for some period of time. The latest are the governor's executive orders. One is around a 10 p.m. curfew. And, you know, curiously, you may wonder, well, how much is a college like us doing when we've really low densified and also tried to limit the footprint on campus? There actually is one lab on a Thursday night that we hold until 9:45 at night, believe it or not. So we're going to go back and do some work on that, because clearly the governor is serious about having people home by 10 p.m. In some ways, yes, there is some essentialness to people in some of the different workforce areas, but we'll make sure that we comply with that. I also think it's relevant to note how the governor is now stressing that even if people are 6 feet apart, masks are mandatory, both in public spaces outside, but also indoors as well. So we'll go back and make sure that we are clearly adhering to that with any of the on-campus work that we're doing. And again, the reiteration now that gatherings are limited indoors, I believe I'm seeing this back to 10. So we're in good position that way. So for us operationally, I share with this committee, clearly COVID is one of those where there was a sort of an up and back, a forward and a backwards as we try to navigate the rise and the fall with the pandemic. I know that we are going to stay on top of this. It certainly from a budget standpoint has a significance, but this is really our conversation about its operational impact. And again, like I said, it's curious when you find out, oh, okay, we do have that lab that we're going to have to talk about because we want to make sure people get home now by a 10 p.m. curfew across the Commonwealth. But again, happy to take questions from anyone on the committee.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Cook or comments? Any old business? Any new business? Okay, reminder that our next meeting will be January 4th, 2021. And can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn, Bill Johnson.
And
I'll
a
second.
Thank you, Betty.
Well, and I know Nanette will call the roll for you too.
And Annette, can you do the roll call, please? We can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
She's actually been having some trouble with her internet today, so let me just do the roll call for the adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Janae McDonald,
Yes.
Mary Kate Murren, Steve Grande,
Yes.
William Johnson,
Yes.
Betty Sposito,
Yes.
Alessandra Anderson.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good
Take care.
night.
Have a good evening.